Hello friends, I'm Jatin. I'm one of the co-founder of Ichai Network. We host engaging startup networking meetups in 25 global startup cities. We have a very interesting spouse entrepreneur series going on where we invite awesome founder couples to share their insights about how they are building the venture together. In today's episode, we have Anupama Panchal and Yash Shah, the co-founders of ClientJoy, join us for this discussion. So Anupama and Yash, thank you so much for joining in.
Thank you,
Thank,
Jatin.
thank you for having us.
This episode is very interesting because this is the third one. I've become a little more experienced person in interviewing, and Anupama and Yash are very regulars at each programs, so we can experiment with a lot of things that we could do in this episode.
Yes, sir. Looking forward to it.
So Anupama and Yash, what is ClientJoy?
So I'll take this one. So ClientJoy basically is a client lifecycle management software for agencies and freelancers where they can manage their leads, clients, proposals, invoices, projects, everything in one place. And so it helps freelancers and agencies to have one single place where all of their client interactions are happening. And they're able to make better decisions. They're able to offer better experiences to clients. And we've got about 1900 odd agencies already using the product. So that's a very quick summary of what we're doing at ClientJoy.
And when it was started?
So we launched this version of the product in November 2019. Previously, we used to be called Griddle, which was basically a collaboration platform for teams and enterprises. We found a much larger opportunity serving agencies and freelancers. And so we've made a bigger pivot. It's a little less than a year since we started.
And what are your roles in this company?
I'm working as co-founder and chief executive. Essentially, so on the resume, it says financial management, strategy planning, business development, and stuff like that. But mainly, it is in making sure that people are able to deliver value and they're able to do the best work that they can. Everything else kind of then falls in place. So that's basically my job role. Anupama can talk about hers.
So I'll also talk about Yash's first. So Yash is like nobody is taking and nobody is doing. That is the work that he has to pick up. Like chief everything officer, that we say, right? So my work is like I'm into building products. It involves talking to clients, taking the feedback, building roadmaps, deciding the technology stacks and product strategy going forward. So that's where I help ClientJoy.
And I know the story, but just for the benefit of our audience, how did you meet each other?
So me and my other co-founder Abhishek, who is kind of like a spouse to me, to actually both of us. Me and Abhishek, who's also a co-founder, we both were working on an initiative called Blocktard, and we basically were looking for another co-founder who could help us on technology front. And we were attending a couple of events. We were going to different colleges and in search of that one person. And one of those places happened to be DIS City, where we got 6 people from there. One of those was Anupama, and she kind of came in, made sure that we were not making empty sales promises, made sure that there was a product that was actually backing the presentations that we were delivering. And that's basically how we met for the first time.
Okay. Anupam, what's your version of this story? Like, what did you think when these guys came as founders presenting about their business?
This is when it gets fun.
So basically, I was in the IICT and these guys came there looking for a technical people who can help them in executing the idea basically. So I had my vacations coming up and I had little free time. So I said, okay, let's do it together. So I'll help you out. So I am that kind of a person that who does not like to spend like holidays and vacation doing nothing. So it's better to learn new things and try new things. So there we joined together and started working on Blocktard. And I think that's my version of this starting of the story.
That was 6-7 years back, I believe.
That was 2013. Yes. Yeah. So 7 years back. Yes.
So it was Blocktard. Then it became Griddle. Now ClientJoy. So Anupama, when did you think that this is this is the company that I could spend a lot more time, and this is the guy I can spend my life with?
So there was a gap. Like first I chose the company, then I chose the life partner. So a person who can handle the company, who can handle responsibilities, that mature. So obviously that's kind of life partner I was looking at. And in the startup journey, you have your ups and downs together. So you become mature together, you grow together. So that was also some of the things that ignited our relationship. And as and when things passed, we started having some affection for each other, and then you already know.
So let me just quickly jump in and tell you the story of, because I remember the moment and the day when she chose to continue working with the company. So it was about the time where her vacations were ending, right? Which meant that she'll have to go to college full time. And we were going to, so me and Abhishek did not have any other engineers, right? And so we said we need something so that Anupama stays even after her college time to like even after the college starts to continue working with us, right? And so we said ki we had recently, like very recently at the time, learned about this concept of employee stock options. So ESOP pools that typically every startup has. So me and Abhishek kind of are sitting and deciding ki yaar, we want to make an offer to Anupama that is attractive, but at the same time, we don't like lose the company or whatever, right? In our own grand notions, we thought, product is something that can be done. Sales is what's important. And so we said, okay, we'll make this offer to Anupama and then let's see. So the next day, the three of us meet and Abhishek presents the offer, right? So he goes like, okay, Anupama, you've done this good work and we want to continue working with you. And you've been very helpful, XYZ, all of those things, hoopla and stuff, and then comes to the offer. And so while all of that is happening, I can see on her face that she's like, dude, get to the point, right? And so then Abhishek says, okay, we are willing to offer you 5% of the company since you are an early tech person and this and that. And so she goes like, okay, all right. And then she stands up and leaves. And me and Abhishek are just looking at each other. We don't know whether she's accepted or rejected, or she did not seem happy, right? And so I went out. I asked her, okay, what happened? What are your thoughts on this? Do you want to continue working? And all of this time, me and Abhishek are really, I mean, I cannot use the word, but we're really like at the edge of our seats, right? Okay, what happens next? And so she's like, hey, I am interested, guys, in partnership of equals. If that is not the case, then I'll invest my time somewhere else. And that was the first time when me and Abhishek understood कि अच्छा time को भी value करना होता है, right? And so that was and so okay, now what do? We sit again together and then we're like कि हाँ वैसे बात तो सही है, we have a designer, we have a sales guy, and we have a product person, and so the three of us can make a really good team, and then we start seeing this is how Anupama can help in X, Y, and Z and all of those things. But that's kind of the day when Anupama said, when I remember that she chose to spend more time with us. So yeah, just an interesting story I thought I'd share with you.
Awesome. And eventually you didn't build that product, the blog, or didn't continue with that business. So the pivot
Correct.
happened with Gradle. So
it was the same legal entity, but we pivoted that product from that product to Gridle.
I got my 10 on 10 in college for that like project, or you say block. I get full grade for that.
So Anupama, what was that key trigger from a Blocktart to Gradle?
So Blocktart to Gridle. So when we were building Blocktart, so we were basically creating a like blogging or a knowledge sharing platform for enterprises. When we were talking to our users, we were doing research. So we, there were two different parts of it. So we realized that there are other serious issues that like those companies are facing. At the same time, when all this was happening, I was in my last year of the college. Yash was working from Bombay and Abhishek was working from Ahmedabad. So I was in Gandhinagar. So that time, we were having some challenges in our collaboration as well. So, and we have known each other like before that for like a good amount of time and had built up a good chemistry. So that time, what was happening is like we were doing communication on WhatsApp, Skype, emails, all other different platforms, and like information was scattered, tasks were scattered, everything was scattered. And we realized that it's very difficult to work when you are remote. So again, we spent some time on that idea. We run it through a lot of people, and we realized that it's a good space to get in and move in this direction. So that time we pivoted to collaboration too, and then we applied with that idea in different, like for example, iAccelerator. So that time iAccelerator was happening in IIM Ahmedabad. We applied to it. We got selected with that idea, and that was a very good acknowledgement that it's a good industry and good space. Then we moved forward in that direction.
And fast forward 2020, you briefly mentioned about it. So you had another slight pivot to the idea that you just mentioned, and why that?
Yes. So that is actually not a pivot in terms of what we were doing. It is a pivot in terms of positioning. So there are a couple of different, and that as a pivot we've been doing for a while now, right? Where we try and figure out what is the ideal group of words that define or explain our business to a potential customer. And so it's always kind of we've moved from visual cloud collaboration to productivity platform to X, Y, and Z, right? So we've always made those shifts. And so this is actually not a pivot in terms of the product or the business model or anything like that. It's essentially a repositioning of the stuff that we already do.
And the very central premise of this conversation is work-life balance, or your thoughts on having a spouse as a teammate in the same
Correct.
company. So
Yes.
Yash, what are your thoughts on that?
So there's no work-life balance, at least like from where I stand. Work is life and life is work. Essentially, that's what it is, because these are the conversations that we have at office. These are the conversations that we have at home. And another interesting thing that I should mention is that a lot of people think that since both of us work together, we get a lot of FaceTime together. But that's not true. So the only FaceTime that we get is while going from home to office and then from office to home, right? Because when we are at office, we work in completely different teams and we are involved with a very different set of people. So we don't actually get to talk a lot on a necessary, like on a regular day. But yeah, so from work-life balance standpoint, I don't, I would argue that there's no need for balance, because both of them essentially, at least over the last 6 months, have kind of merged. I know that Anupama is raring to differ. So yeah, that's what my thought is.
Okay. Anupama, your thoughts on that?
Work-life balance. So yes, like both of us have different expectations from each other over here, and we would be like completely honest. So Yash is a workaholic person, and I take work very seriously, committedly, dedicatedly. But I need to have a personal space as well in my life. Like then only I think I can work better, and I feel pretty satisfied. Well, I feel more satisfied in my life regarding that. What are the things that I have figured out is that you cannot have expectation as usual couples that you are going out on a weekend for movies, you're spending times with your family, a lot of families like his family, my family. So that does not happen. But generally, you need these kind of experiences so that you can have conversations about these things. I think Yash's video is stuck. Is that
No. I'm just intently listening to you, Anupama. This is like therapy, right? Where Jatin is like, as a psychiatrist, is like, Yash, what does work-life balance mean to you? Anupama, what does it mean to you? And then let's find out.
started with that, this is how a couple's life would be. But then what happened is like those kind of expectations started fading out. And what new thing emerged was that when you are working together, in a company and you are couple, so there are a lot of shared responsibilities that you have, like of the team, of the company, and everything that is there. So you are always working towards a goal, which is like both of our goal. That is something that gives you those experiences that, generally you look outside, like that adventure, that fear. So I think all those we get in the company itself. So we don't need to actually, think that, okay, I'm missing on these things in my life, so I don't have a pretty good work-life balance. So that was something that I, at the end of, making it, that's how, we should live.
Awesome.
So Anupama used a lot of great words, like, but to kind of sum it up, it's our work-life balance and our idea of work-life balance. That's kind of a work in progress, right? Much like any relationship, yeah. But that's kind of what it is from my side, at least.
Absolutely. We'll try to do a rapid fire. So Anupama, what is that one thing you strongly believe, but not necessarily Yash believes on the same thing? It could be a very small thing.
Okay. Then like putting all energies at one place, and he believes in, not putting all eggs in one basket.
Yash?
So I'm a risk mitigation kind of a guy. So I'd always kind of try and make sure that all of the things are not happening in one place. But yeah, so one thing that she believes that I don't is something as thing as God, right? I don't believe that God exists. I don't think she also believes in God, but I think there's some element of something greater, like beyond an individual, that she believes in, that I don't. I'm a kind of like a science man myself.
So I don't believe. So God, I think, is the wrong word. So
Yeah, maybe.
okay,
Maybe.
so that's a debatable topic, but yes. So I believe that yes, there is a universal consciousness. There are things which are
Correct.
beyond understanding of science. So I believe the presence of it. Yeah, but I don't know what it is. So I will never name it as God or anything.
Correct.
And Yash, what is that one thing, one particular skill of Anupama that you admire, and then you feel if you have that skill, you would have done much better?
Oh, that would be coding skills, right? So her I mean, so I've always maintained and I've always regretted that I did not take up computer science 12, and so so
She's
even
not
though
wrong.
getting computer, yeah, which could be true, which could be true, but was not for me, which I figured out just after I graduated. But yeah, so her coding skills, that would be one. Second skill, like on apart from like the day things that she does, is her ability to, I think, connect at a more human level with people. So one of the things that I've always felt at ClientJoy and even wherever I worked is that whenever I interact with people, I've always, I mean, people always look at me and interact with me as a coworker or a colleague, right? Not kind of as a friend. So I've at my workplace, and you're well aware of that, I've never been able to make human connections, right, from a person to person standpoint, which I think Anupama is super successful at. So yeah.
Wow. And Anupama, what is that one skill that Yash has and you feel that if you would have had, you would have done much better?
I think it's public speaking skills. So no doubt in that. So he's
Yes.
very good at public speaking, storytelling. So those are the things that, is in my list that I want to observe Yash and want to adopt that.
And remote call setup. Also feel that I should have this kind of setup.
So this remote call setup has been gifted to me by Anupama. So I will send a screenshot to Nisha.
Yes, that would be nice. And yes, which particular activity you enjoy the most in your work life?
In my work life, it's for sure making. So one of the ways in which I'm really lucky is that I get to make impactful decisions almost every other week, if not every week, right? So when a problem is really big, that's when typically it comes to me, and I'm in a position to do something about it, and that's something that's very fulfilling, right? So every other week I'll get, there'll be like one day or 2 days where I'll go home and I'll be like, "Ke, aaj kaam kiya hai," aaj matlab, I it was, something was happening this way and then I changed it, and like now it is happening that way, and so that is very fulfilling.
Okay. And Anupama?
Okay, so you give me a problem, so I like to solve it. So in our specific industry, I like, like solving people's problem through user journeys or applications. So building journeys is what I love.
And if you were not running ClientJoy, what else you would have been doing, Anupama?
So same thing. So like I really love creating products which solves people's problem. So I would have been doing the same thing. If not this problem, then some other problem.
Okay. And Yash?
I would be in investment banking, I think, if I were not doing this, because apart from like technology and how it changes people's lives, one of the other things that's kind of second on my list is finances and how that also changes people's lives, and so I'd be working in finance.
Yep. And which is your favorite book or a podcast?
Currently I'm reading this book called Shantaram. That's something that I'm currently into as of now, and I'm enjoying that a lot. However, my favorite one has to be Hard Thing About Hard Things.
Okay. And the podcast? Since you listen to some podcasts.
I've just recently started. So there's Joe Rogan that I listen to. I've recently started listening to the Ranveer show, and another one that I have just like heard about and I'm planning to start listening to is the one by Naval Ravikant.
And Anupama, favorite
Yes.
book and a podcast?
Yes, so Joe Rogan, definitely the one podcast. And when it comes to books, so I am like I read a lot of books, but at the same I'm more interested in reading what is like trending. So I am more into magazines. So I gifted her HBR subscription to Yash, and I ended up reading myself.
So you are big on gifting to Yash.
So I'll tell you what. So my birthdays are an opportunity for Anupama to give me gifts that she will end up using herself. So yeah. So that's kind of what we're into. Yeah.
Good strategy. So sometimes there are certain choices we make in our enterprises that turns out to be great, or certain moments which put us in a growth trajectory. So top two moments, both of you share different moment. So according to you, Anupama, which was that key moment or a decision that you made that made ClientJoy a successful enterprise?
Okay, so I think I'll ask Yash to go first. Let me think about it.
Okay.
So you run the risk of losing the good ones to me. but it's okay. So my first one would be our decision to offer product on a lifetime access. That put us on a growth trajectory in the sense that it allowed us to have access to a large pool of users at once, right? Like in 1 month, we were able to, I think, acquire like 1,300 odd customers. So, and which is a great pool to have. And these are not 1,300 users, right? They're 1,300 customers. And that's a great pool to have to test your pricing on, to figure out what features to build on your roadmap, to understand what is it that they find most value in and stuff like that. So I think that would be the first one. While it did not make financial sense to do that, it did make a lot of product sense to do that. And the idea was that instead of going freemium where you have a free forever version of the product, just offer a lifetime access, right? That way they pay for it, so you know that they are sincere, and then they start offering you recommendations. So that would be the first one. The second one is something that we are still seeing, but the second one would be for us to stop our services, right? So on the side, we were also customizing the product for our customers. So if we got a large enough customer, so we had Aditya Birla Capital, Sony Pictures, Tata Communications. And for those customers, what we do is they'd be really high value customers, average project between 15 to 25 lakhs, and we'd customize the product for them, right? And so we recently, like a couple of months ago, we made the decision of stopping that thing altogether, wherein we said that, hey, the whole team is going to focus only on the core product, even though that is a low ticket vertical SaaS. So you cannot pay like more than $149 for ClientJoy, right? No matter who you are, but we'll focus on that because that's recurring, and those clients are way less demanding. They suck a lot less energy out of us. And one thing that we do kind of applies to everyone. And so that way we are able to streamline our operations. So these two, I think, are key ones for me. Yeah. And now Anupama.
Yes, he covered a lot of ground. So Anupama, you have to find other moments of the choices.
Yes, definitely. So basically, I think, so when, you are an entrepreneur, so in the beginning and in the whole journey, you are doing a lot of works and tasks. So you have a lot of responsibilities on you. And some way, the way an entrepreneur or a founder can think, it's sometimes your team is not able to think that way or that maturely. So what happens is you end up doing all the things by yourself because you are afraid that if I share this responsibility with someone else, then they might make a mistake because they are not mature enough to take this responsibility. And so those are the things that keeps you away from giving major responsibilities to other people. So I think what has always worked for us is sometimes taking the risk and putting large roles in and sharing bigger responsibilities with the people who had the intention but were not prepared enough or did not have enough knowledge about that skills. So it could be creating team leaders, sharing extra responsibility with the existing team members. So I think those are the moments which have been very riskier, but we were able to create a strong foundation team for our company.
And sometimes it is very tricky to handle difficult conversations. Any examples you can share and how you went about it, or what are your thoughts on that?
The way to think about it is that if you don't have that difficult conversation today, it's actually going to lead to a much larger loss later on, right?
I meant between both of you.
Yeah, between both of us. So between both of us.
Any example you want to share?
So I like one example would be what will be the salary for me and for Anupama. Now, obviously, I'll not go into the numbers, but that is a difficult conversation, right? Because on one side you're looking at, because that income is yours, right? It's like both mine and hers. But on the other side, you have to look at what is the contribution to the organization, how much does the organization value the building of the product versus, let's say, sales of the product. What the other difficult conversation, which a lot of people might be able to relate to, is identifying metrics and then assigning targets, right? So like I have my own targets that, let's say, Anupama comments on, where Anupama will say, this is not enough, or you've got to do better than that. And then Anupama has her targets that I comment on, right? And so all of those are, or let's say when the deadlines are missed, or when, say, I'm not able to deliver the number of sales that I'm supposed to do within a particular quarter, or when she's not able to deliver a particular feature that was supposed to be released. And so all of these fall into the category of difficult conversation.
So when we are having difficult conversation, I think it is something that I admire in both of us, is that no matter how difficult it is, maybe, it could be hurt for somebody and whatever, but we always understand the reason for that conversation and we stick to that.
And if everything goes the way you imagine it should be, what would ClientJoy be?
So ClientJoy will be serving 100,000 agencies in the next 3 years if everything goes the way that it is supposed to go, right? It's a fairly simple one. We are on a mission of helping 100,000 agencies grow, fulfill, and earn. Right, services is the future. And just to kind of add to the last question that you asked, right? So I learned. I think I read this in some negotiation book or some TV show. I don't remember. But one of the things that was mentioned over there is that, let's say if you have some sort of a secret, right, a state secret, and if you're captured and then you're being tortured, then typically the instinct is that I am feeling the pain, and so since I'm feeling the pain, the way to get rid of the pain is to give the secret and then get out of it. However, when you are actually being tortured, the way to get out of it is to think of what that secret is protecting. And that's the case with difficult conversations as well. While you're having the difficult conversations, the goal is not to get out of that conversation. The goal is to think of what it is going to solve or what it is going to fix once that conversation has ended. And I think that kind of helps.
So imagine you are invited as a chief guest in a university which is consisting of founder couples only as a students, and you are the chief guest, and
Okay.
you have only one line for your convocation speech. So what would that one line be, Yash?
This is the best thing that could have ever happened to you. Go for it.
Wow.
I think it's very easy for work conflict to come into personal life. It is very easy, and it happens with us as well. So I think that maturity is required, that you are able to differentiate between both. Like this is only because of this is because of the work, or this is for the work, and this is my personal life. So that I think distinction is required.
And I'm so sorry, but I have one more sentence if that is
Please.
allowed. So let's say I'm going to another college and then I have another one like, right? So just one last thing. So because I'm in this unique position, right, where I have one co-founder who's not a spouse and another one who is a spouse, right? And so having been there, I can very, very confidently say that the grass is not greener on the other side. You may think that if your co-founder were not a spouse, you would have been able to do a lot of things. However, that is not true. You are able to do more things with your spouse as your co-founder than the other way around.
Well said. Thank you so much, Anupama and Yash.